Baby found a German Shepherd watching cartoons through a window. What Baby did next left everyone in tears. The story you're about to listen to will break your heart and then piece it back together in the most unexpected way. Don't forget to like, share, and comment where you're listening from. Rain tapped against the window as 5-year-old Noah pressed his small nose against the glass, watching droplets race down the pane. His mother, Hannah, typed furiously on her laptop at the kitchen table, the sound of her fingers hitting the keys filling their small living room. Noah sighed, drawing a smiley face in the condensation his breath left on the window. Rainy days meant no playground, no friends, nothing but staying inside their cramped apartment on Maple Street. "Mom, I'm bored," Noah whined, turning around to face Hannah, his favorite dinosaur t-shirt slightly too big for his small frame. Hannah didn't look up from her screen. "Just a minute, sweetie. Mommy has a deadline." Her dark hair was pulled back in a messy bun, circles under her eyes betraying her exhaustion. Single parenting while working from home wasn't easy, especially during school holidays. Noah turned back to the window, scanning the quiet street for anything interesting. Their neighborhood wasn't much to look at. Faded houses with peeling paint, overgrown lawns, and the occasional stray cat darting between trash cans. His eyes drifted to the abandoned house across the street. It had been empty for months, its windows boarded up, the yard overtaken by weeds. Except, Noah squinted. One of the windows wasn't boarded anymore, and was that light flickering inside? His curiosity piqued. Noah pressed closer to the glass, little hands cupped around his eyes to block the glare. Yes, there was definitely a light inside, the blue glow of a television screen. But who would be watching TV in an abandoned house? Noah gasped. Sitting perfectly still in front of the flickering screen wasn't a person at all. It was a dog, a massive German Shepherd, its ears perked forward, watching what looked like cartoons through the dirty window. "Mom! Mom! There's a dog watching TV in the empty house!" Noah bounced on his toes, pointing frantically. Hannah sighed without looking up. "Noah, honey, please, I need to finish this report. Go play with your Legos." "But Mom..." "Noah, not now." Her voice carried a warning tone that Noah knew better than to challenge. He turned back to the window, unable to tear his eyes away from the strange sight. The dog sat perfectly still, as if hypnotized by the colorful animations flashing across the screen. Sometimes its ears would twitch, or its head would tilt slightly, but it never moved from its spot. Noah wondered if the dog belonged to someone. Maybe new people had moved in without him noticing, but the rest of the house looked dark and empty. And why would someone leave their dog alone with just the TV on? The rain intensified, drumming harder against the roof. Noah watched until his legs grew tired from standing. The dog hadn't moved, hadn't looked away from the screen even once. There was something sad about it, something that made Noah's chest feel tight. "Noah, lunch is ready," Hannah called from the kitchen, finally closing her laptop. During lunch, Noah couldn't stop thinking about the dog. "Mom, can we get a dog?" he asked between bites of his peanut butter sandwich. Hannah smiled tiredly. "We've talked about this, sweetie. Dogs need a lot of space and time, and we don't have either right now." She ruffled his hair. "Maybe when we move to a bigger place." "But what if a dog needs help? Should we help it then?" Hannah looked at him curiously. "Is this about what you saw across the street?" Noah nodded eagerly. "He's all alone, Mom, just watching cartoons." "Noah," Hannah said gently, "I'm sure what you saw was just shadows or reflections. That house has been empty since old Mr. Parker moved to Florida." "But I saw it," Noah insisted, his lower lip jutting out. "A big German Shepherd, sitting still, watching TV." Hannah sighed. "After lunch, I'll take a look, okay? But that house is abandoned. There's no electricity for a TV, and definitely no dog living there alone." But after lunch, the rain had turned into a downpour, and Hannah had another video call. Noah returned to his window post, and there was the dog, still in the same position, still watching the same cartoons. Noah recognized the show now. Adventure Time, his favorite. The dog's fur looked matted in places, its ribs visible even from across the street. Noah felt a lump form in his throat. The poor dog looked hungry and sad. That night, Noah dreamed about the dog. In his dream, the dog spoke to him, its voice deep and tired. "Help me, Noah. I'm waiting for someone who never comes back." The next morning, Noah rushed to the window as soon as he woke up. The dog was there again, in the exact same spot, watching the same cartoons. Noah pressed his hand against the glass, as if he could reach across the street and touch the lonely animal. "I see you," he whispered. For the next 3 days, Noah watched the dog. It was always there at the same times: morning before breakfast, afternoon after lunch, and early evening before dinner. Always in the same position, always watching cartoons. Hannah had looked once, briefly, and said she couldn't see anything, that Noah's imagination was working overtime, but Noah knew what he saw. On the 4th day, Hannah had to go into the office for an emergency meeting. Mrs. Wilson from next door came to watch Noah. "I'll be back before dinner," Hannah promised, kissing the top of Noah's head. "Be good for Mrs. Wilson, okay?" Mrs. Wilson was 83 and hard of hearing. After checking that Noah had lunch and that nothing in the house could catch fire, she settled into Hannah's armchair and promptly fell asleep, her soft snores filling the quiet apartment. Noah looked out the window. The dog was there, as always. But today, something was different. The dog looked thinner, its head drooping slightly. It wasn't watching the cartoons with the same intensity. It looked sick. Noah made a decision. Without allowing himself to think about what his mom would say, he grabbed his raincoat from the hook by the door, slipped his feet into his rubber boots, and quietly let himself out of the apartment. The rain had stopped, but the streets were still slick with puddles that reflected the gray sky above. Noah looked both ways before crossing the street, just like his mom had taught him. His heart hammered in his chest as he approached the abandoned house. Up close, it looked even more neglected. Gutters hanging loose, paint peeling, and shutters dangling at odd angles. Noah crept around to the side of the house, looking for a way in. The front door was boarded up, but a side gate hung open, creaking slightly in the breeze. The backyard was overgrown with weeds taller than Noah. He pushed through them, getting his jeans wet in the process. At the back of the house, Noah found what he was looking for: a small window at ground level, probably leading to a basement, with the glass broken out. It was just big enough for a small boy to squeeze through. Noah hesitated, remembering his mother's warnings about strange houses and dangerous places. But then he thought of the sad dog, watching cartoons alone, waiting for someone who never came. Noah lowered himself feet first through the window, landing with a soft thud on a concrete floor. The basement was dark and smelled of mold and something else, something unpleasant that made Noah wrinkle his nose. He waited for his eyes to adjust to the dim light filtering through the broken window. Boxes were stacked against the walls, and old furniture covered in sheets loomed like ghosts in the corners. Noah heard the faint sound of cartoons from somewhere above him. He found the stairs and climbed them slowly, each step creaking under his weight. The door at the top of the stairs opened into a hallway. The house was largely empty, dust covering the floors, cobwebs hanging from the ceiling. But from one room, light spilled out, accompanied by the cheerful sounds of Jake the dog and Finn the human having an adventure. Noah approached cautiously, his heart in his throat. He peered around the doorframe. There sat the German Shepherd, exactly as Noah had seen him from across the street. The dog was chained to a radiator, a heavy metal collar around its neck. The room was bare except for an old TV sitting on the floor, playing cartoons on a loop. A bowl with only a few kibbles left sat just within the dog's reach, and another bowl, completely dry, was tipped over beside it. The dog turned its head slowly, its eyes meeting Noah's. Noah expected it to bark or growl, but it just watched him, its gaze weary and resigned. "Hi," Noah whispered, his voice small in the empty house. "I'm Noah." The dog's tail thumped once against the floor, weakly, but it didn't move from its spot. Noah took a cautious step into the room, then another. The dog watched him, but showed no signs of aggression. Slowly, Noah knelt a few feet away. "Are you hungry?" Noah asked. He dug in his pocket and pulled out half a granola bar left over from snack time. He unwrapped it and placed it on the floor, then pushed it toward the dog with his fingertips. The dog sniffed the air, then stretched its neck toward the offering. It took the granola bar gently, almost delicately, from the floor. Noah noticed how slowly it chewed, how carefully it swallowed, as if savoring every morsel. "Who left you here?" Noah whispered, his throat tight with emotion. "Why are you all alone?" The dog finished the granola bar and looked at Noah with eyes that seemed to hold all the sadness in the world. It moved toward him, as far as the chain would allow, and sat down just within Noah's reach. Noah hesitated, then slowly raised his hand. The dog sniffed his fingers, then nudged its head under Noah's palm. Taking the cue, Noah gently stroked the dog's head. Its fur was rough and matted, but the dog leaned into the touch as if it had been starved for affection. "I'll come back," Noah promised. "I'll bring you more food." He looked at the empty water bowl. "And water. You need water." The dog sighed, a deep, heavy sound that seemed to deflate its entire body. Noah stayed as long as he dared, petting the dog and talking to it softly about school, his friends, and his favorite cartoons. The dog listened with pricked ears, occasionally licking Noah's hand or nudging him for more pets. By the time Noah realized he should get back before Mrs. Wilson woke up, the dog's eyes looked a little brighter, and its tail wagged whenever Noah spoke. "I have to go," Noah finally said, rising to his feet. "But I'll come back tomorrow, I promise." The dog whined softly as Noah backed toward the door. "I promise," Noah repeated, his voice catching. "I won't leave you here alone." Noah made it back home just as Mrs. Wilson was stirring from her nap. She didn't notice his damp jeans or the dirt on his hands. Noah went straight to the bathroom to wash up, his mind racing with plans. The dog needed help, and somehow he was going to provide it. That night at dinner, Noah couldn't stop thinking about the lonely dog. "Mom," he said, pushing his spaghetti around his plate, "what happens to pets when people leave them behind?" Hannah looked up, concern crossing her face. "That's a sad thing that shouldn't happen, but sometimes it does. Usually animal control takes them to a shelter. But what if nobody knows they're there? What if they're trapped somewhere?" Hannah put down her fork. "Noah, what's going on? You've been acting strange all week." Noah hesitated. He wanted to tell her about the dog, but he was afraid she wouldn't believe him, or, worse, would call someone who would take the dog away to a scary place. "Nothing," he mumbled, shoving a forkful of pasta into his mouth. Hannah studied him for a moment longer, then sighed. "If you're worried about an animal, you should tell me or another adult. Animals can't help themselves sometimes. They need humans to speak up for them." Noah nodded, but kept his secret. He needed to learn more about the dog first. He needed to be sure. The next day was Saturday. Hannah had work to catch up on, so she set Noah up with a movie in the living room while she worked at the kitchen table. As soon as she was engrossed in her spreadsheets, Noah snuck to the kitchen, filled a water bottle, and grabbed a handful of chicken strips left over from dinner the night before. He stuffed them into his pockets, along with a small bag of dog treats he'd persuaded Hannah to buy for the neighbor's dog. "I'm going to play in my room," Noah announced. Hannah nodded distractedly. Instead of going to his room, Noah slipped out the back door and made his way across the street to the abandoned house. This time, he moved with more confidence, knowing exactly where to go and how to get in. The dog was waiting, its ears perking up at the sound of Noah's footsteps. Its tail began to wag as soon as Noah appeared in the doorway. "I brought you water," Noah said, pouring the contents of his water bottle into the dry bowl. The dog lapped eagerly at the liquid, drinking every last drop. "And food," Noah added, placing the chicken strips on the floor. The dog devoured the chicken, then looked up at Noah with grateful eyes. Noah sat cross-legged on the floor, and this time, the dog moved as close to him as the chain would allow, resting its head in Noah's lap. "You need a name," Noah said, stroking the dog's head. The dog's fur was dirty, but Noah could tell it had once been beautiful, black with tan markings, now dulled by dust and neglect. "I'll call you Rex." The name seemed to fit the regal-looking animal, despite its current sad state. Rex's tail thumped against the floor at the sound of his new name. As Noah pet Rex, he noticed something concerning, a fresh scrape on the dog's side, crusted with dried blood. And when Rex moved, he favored his right front paw, limping slightly. "Who hurt you?" Noah whispered, anger bubbling up inside him. He examined Rex more carefully and found other marks, old scars, patches of fur missing, and what looked like cigarette burns on his ears. Noah's vision blurred with tears. "Nobody's going to hurt you again," he promised, his voice fierce despite its childish pitch. "I'll protect you." Rex licked Noah's hand, his brown eyes full of trust that broke Noah's heart. How could anyone hurt such a gentle creature? As Noah sat with Rex, the TV droning on in the background, he heard voices outside, male voices, gruff and angry. Rex's ears flattened against his head, and he began to tremble. Noah scrambled to his feet, heart pounding. "I have to hide," he whispered to Rex, looking around frantically. There was a closet in the corner of the room. Noah slipped inside, leaving the door cracked just enough to see through. Two men entered the house, their heavy footsteps echoing through the empty rooms. Rex cowered, making himself as small as possible, his trembling visible from where Noah hid. "Stupid dog better still be here," one man growled. They appeared in the doorway, one tall and rail-thin with a patchy beard, the other shorter with arms covered in tattoos. Both looked mean, their faces hard with permanent scowls. "There's the mutt," the tattooed man said, entering the room, "still watching his stupid cartoons." He laughed, a harsh sound that made Noah flinch. "Dumbest guard dog ever." "He ain't a guard dog, Vic," the tall man said. "He's leverage. Long as we got him, his old partner won't make trouble." Vic kicked at Rex, who yelped and scrambled back as far as his chain would allow. "Yeah, well, he's eating our food and not doing much guarding. Maybe we should just get rid of him." Noah bit his lip to keep from crying out. These were bad men, and they were hurting Rex on purpose. They were the reason for the wounds, for the fear in Rex's eyes. "Boss said keep him alive," the tall man reminded Vic. "For now." He tossed a small bag of dog food on the floor. "That's all he gets this week. Make it last, mutt." The men left as quickly as they'd come, their voices fading as they exited the house. Noah waited, counting to 100 to make sure they were really gone, before emerging from his hiding place. Rex was still trembling, his eyes wide with fear. Noah rushed to his side, wrapping his small arms around the dog's neck. "It's okay," he whispered, his voice shaking. "They're gone. I won't let them hurt you again." But how? Noah was just a kid. He couldn't fight those men. He couldn't even reach the top shelf in the kitchen without a stool. Yet as Rex leaned into him, seeking comfort from his small human friend, Noah knew he had to try. Somehow, he had to save Rex from this place, from those men, from the loneliness and fear. "I'll come back again tomorrow," Noah promised, his voice stronger now, determined. "And I'm going to figure out how to get you out of here. That's a promise, Rex." Rex licked Noah's cheek, a gentle gesture of trust and hope that made Noah's resolve even stronger. As Noah made his way back home, his mind raced with half-formed plans. He needed help, but who could he tell? Who would believe him? And most importantly, who would be brave enough to stand up to those scary men? Noah slipped back into his house, his heart heavy with the weight of Rex's secret, but his determination growing with each step. One way or another, he was going to save that dog. When Noah looked out his window that evening, he noticed something different. The window where Rex usually sat was closed, the curtains drawn. Noah couldn't see inside, couldn't see if Rex was okay, his stomach clenched with worry. "Those men might come back," he whispered to himself, "and I'm not there to protect him." Noah barely slept that night, his dreams filled with Rex's sad eyes and the cruel laughter of the men who kept him chained. By morning, the window across the street remained closed, and Noah's worry had transformed into something larger, something braver. He wasn't just going to visit Rex again, he was going to rescue him. Today. Sunday morning dawned bright and clear, the rain finally giving way to sunshine. Hannah was in a good mood, humming as she made pancakes for breakfast. "How about we go to the park later?" she suggested, setting a plate of pancakes shaped like Mickey Mouse in front of Noah. "It's beautiful outside." Noah nodded, but his mind was elsewhere. He ate quickly, formulating his plan. He needed supplies, and a distraction. "Mom, can I play in the backyard after breakfast?" Noah asked, trying to sound casual. "I want to build a fort with my wagon and those boxes in the garage." Hannah smiled, pleased to see him interested in outdoor play after a week of rain. "Sure, sweetie, I need to make some calls anyway. Just stay in the yard, okay?" As soon as Hannah was occupied with her phone calls, Noah gathered his supplies. He filled his red wagon with a blanket, his water bottle, some leftover pancakes wrapped in a napkin, and a pair of garden shears he found hanging in the garage. The shears were heavy and probably dangerous. His mom would freak if she knew he was touching them. But Noah needed something to cut Rex's chain. Noah waited until Hannah was deep in conversation, pacing the kitchen with her phone pressed to her ear, before dragging his wagon across the street to the abandoned house. His heart pounded so hard he could feel it in his throat, but he pushed forward, driven by the memory of Rex's sad eyes and trembling body. The house seemed eerier in the daylight, its flaws more visible, its neglect more pronounced. Noah made his way to the basement window, lowering his supplies through first before squeezing in himself. The wagon would have to stay outside. He'd bring Rex back to it. The house was silent except for the faint sound of cartoons upstairs. No voices, no footsteps. Noah crept up the stairs, wincing at every creak of the old wood beneath his feet. When he reached the room where Rex was kept, Noah gasped. The dog looked worse than yesterday. A fresh bruise marred his side, and dried blood caked around a new cut on his muzzle. Rex was lying on his side, his breathing shallow, the chain tight around his neck. "Rex," Noah whispered, rushing to the dog's side. "I'm here now. I'm going to get you out." Rex's tail thumped weakly against the floor. He tried to stand but whimpered in pain, collapsing back down. Noah noticed Rex was favoring his right front leg even more today. Maybe it was broken. Anger surged through Noah, hot and fierce. Those men had hurt Rex again, and this time badly. With shaking hands, Noah took out the garden shears. The chain was thick and rusty, attached to a heavy padlock. Noah tried to cut it, his small hands struggling with the heavy tool, but the metal was too strong. After several attempts, his palms red and sore from the effort, Noah had to admit defeat. He turned his attention to where the chain connected to the radiator. It was looped through a metal ring bolted to the wall. The bolt looked old and loose. Noah set down the shears and began working on the bolt with his fingers, twisting and pulling until his fingertips were raw. Slowly the bolt began to give. "Just a little more," Noah grunted, putting all his strength into one final tug. With a screech of metal, the bolt came free from the wall. The chain was still attached to Rex's collar, but he was no longer tethered to the radiator. "We did it!" Noah whispered triumphantly. "Come on, Rex. We need to go before those men come back." Rex struggled to his feet, wobbling slightly. He was weak and injured, but determination shone in his eyes. Noah wrapped the blanket around the dog, partly to comfort him and partly to hide the chain still attached to his collar. Together, they made their way slowly through the house, Rex limping heavily, Noah supporting him as best he could. At the basement window, Noah faced a new challenge. The opening was too small for Rex, especially in his weakened state. The front and back doors were boarded up. They were trapped. Noah fought back tears of frustration. They had come so far. He couldn't fail now. "There has to be another way," he said, stroking Rex's head. The dog looked up at him with complete trust, as if certain Noah would figure something out. Noah went back upstairs, Rex hobbling behind him, to look for another exit. In the kitchen, he found a door that led to a small enclosed porch. The outer door of the porch was padlocked, but one of the windows was cracked. Noah pushed against it, and the rotted frame gave way easily. The opening was just big enough for Rex to squeeze through if he tried. "This way," Noah encouraged, guiding Rex toward the window. The dog hesitated, then, with Noah's help, managed to crawl through the opening, whimpering when his injured leg scraped against the frame. Noah followed, landing beside Rex in an overgrown side yard. Now came the hardest part, getting Rex back to Noah's house without being seen. The wagon waited where Noah had left it, partially hidden in some bushes. Noah helped Rex climb in, covering him with the blanket. The wagon groaned under the weight of the large dog, but held. Noah peered around the corner of the house. The street was empty except for Mr. Peterson watering his lawn 3 houses down. If they moved quickly, they might make it unnoticed. "We have to be really quiet," Noah whispered to Rex, who seemed to understand, remaining perfectly still under the blanket. Noah pulled the wagon as fast as he could, the wheels rattling on the uneven sidewalk. Rex was heavy, and Noah's arms strained with the effort, but adrenaline gave him strength. They were halfway across the street when disaster struck. "Noah, what are you doing?" Mrs. Wilson stood on her porch, squinting at him through her thick glasses. Noah froze, his mind racing. "Just playing with my wagon," he called back, trying to sound normal despite his pounding heart. "What's that you've got in there?" Mrs. Wilson started down her steps, moving with surprising speed for someone her age. Noah panicked. If Mrs. Wilson saw Rex, she'd tell his mom. And what if those men were watching? Just then, Rex let out a low whine of pain. The sound was quiet, but in the still morning air, it carried clearly to Mrs. Wilson's ears. "Is that a dog?" Mrs. Wilson asked, now just a few feet away. Noah's eyes filled with tears. He was caught. It was all over before it had even begun. But Mrs. Wilson's next words surprised him. "Oh, you poor thing," she said, not to Noah, but to Rex, as she lifted the edge of the blanket. Her wrinkled face softened at the sight of the injured dog. "What happened to you?" "Bad men hurt him," Noah explained, his voice small. "They keep him chained up in the empty house. They don't feed him enough, and they hit him. I had to save him." Mrs. Wilson's expression hardened, her lips pressing into a thin line. "You did the right thing," she said firmly. "Let me help you get him somewhere safe." Hope bloomed in Noah's chest. "You won't tell Mom?" "Not yet," Mrs. Wilson promised. "First, let's take care of this brave fellow. My late husband was a veterinarian. I know a thing or two about caring for injured animals." With Mrs. Wilson's help, Noah managed to get Rex into his backyard without Hannah noticing. They settled the dog in Noah's fort, a sturdy structure built from old pallets and waterproof tarps that Noah's mom had helped him construct last summer. Inside, it was dry and relatively comfortable, with enough space for a large dog to lie down. Mrs. Wilson examined Rex's injuries with gentle hands. "This leg isn't broken, just badly sprained," she declared. "But he's malnourished, and these wounds need cleaning." She looked at Noah seriously. "You know we'll have to tell your mother eventually." Noah nodded reluctantly. "But not yet. Those men might come looking for him. They said Rex belonged to someone important, someone they were afraid of." Mrs. Wilson's eyebrows rose. "Did they say who?" Noah shook his head. "Just that he was leverage, and that his old partner wouldn't make trouble as long as they had Rex." A thoughtful look crossed Mrs. Wilson's face. "That's interesting, very interesting. Let me think on this while I get some supplies from my house. You stay with Rex." While Mrs. Wilson was gone, Noah fed Rex the pancakes he'd brought and gave him fresh water. The dog ate gratefully, then laid his head in Noah's lap with a sigh that seemed to say, "Thank you." "You're safe now," Noah whispered, stroking Rex's soft ears. "I won't let anyone hurt you again." Mrs. Wilson returned with a bag of medical supplies and, surprisingly, some proper dog food. "My daughter's dog stays with me sometimes," she explained, pouring some kibble into a bowl. "This is better for him than pancakes." She cleaned Rex's wounds with gentle efficiency, applying antibiotic ointment and soft bandages where needed. Rex remained perfectly still throughout the process, as if he knew she was helping him. "He's a special dog," Mrs. Wilson commented, watching Rex's intelligent eyes follow her movements. "There's something familiar about him, but I can't quite place it." Just as Mrs. Wilson finished tending to Rex, they heard Hannah calling from the house. "Noah, where are you? Lunch is ready." Noah exchanged a panicked look with Mrs. Wilson. "What do I do?" "Go have lunch," Mrs. Wilson said calmly. "Act normal. I'll stay with Rex. We'll figure this out together, okay?" Noah nodded gratefully and hurried to the house, his mind spinning with the morning's events. He had actually done it. He had rescued Rex. But what came next? How long could they keep a large German Shepherd hidden in the backyard? And what would happen when those men discovered Rex was missing? Throughout lunch, Noah was distracted, his thoughts constantly drifting to Rex and Mrs. Wilson waiting in the fort. "Are you feeling okay?" Hannah asked, pressing a hand to Noah's forehead. "You've barely touched your sandwich." "I'm fine," Noah assured her, "just thinking about stuff." "What kind of stuff?" Hannah asked, always genuinely interested in her son's thoughts. Noah hesitated. Maybe now was the time to tell her, but the memory of those men's cruel faces flashed in his mind. What if they came looking for Rex and hurt his mom? What if they called the police and Rex was taken away? "Just stuff about dogs," Noah said finally. "I was wondering why some people are mean to dogs." Hannah's expression softened. "Some people are cruel to animals because they don't understand or respect that animals have feelings too. But there are also lots of good people who help animals and give them loving homes." Noah nodded thoughtfully. If someone found a dog that was being hurt, what should they do? "They should tell a trusted adult right away," Hannah said. "There are special people whose job it is to help animals in trouble. Animal control officers, shelter workers, veterinarians." "But what if the bad people who hurt the dog came looking for it?" Noah pressed. Hannah gave him a curious look. "Noah, is there something you want to tell me?" Noah's heart raced. He wanted to tell her. He really did. But the fear of those men, of what they might do, kept his secret locked inside. "No," he said, looking down at his plate. "I was just wondering." After lunch, Noah returned to the fort, where he found Mrs. Wilson reading a newspaper while Rex dozed beside her. "I think we need to call someone," Mrs. Wilson said without preamble. "This dog needs proper veterinary care, and those men you mentioned need to be reported to the police." "But what if they take Rex away? What if they put him in a pound or something?" Noah's voice cracked with emotion. Mrs. Wilson smiled gently. "I have a friend, Dr. Julia. She's a veterinarian who runs a small rescue out of her clinic. I think she could help us without involving the authorities right away." Hope flickered in Noah's chest. "Really? Can we call her now?" Mrs. Wilson nodded. "I think that's best. Your mother will have to know eventually, but perhaps we can figure out more about Rex's situation first. She pulled out her phone. Let me give Julia a call. While Mrs. Wilson spoke quietly on the phone, Noah sat beside Rex, who had woken and was watching them with alert eyes. The dog seemed more comfortable now, his breathing easier, though he still winced when he moved his injured leg. "You're the bravest dog ever," Noah whispered, rubbing behind Rex's ears the way he seemed to like. "And the smartest. You understand everything, don't you?" Rex licked Noah's hand, his warm tongue rough against the boy's skin. There was something almost human in the dog's gaze, a depth of understanding that went beyond ordinary animal intelligence. Mrs. Wilson finished her call and turned to Noah with a smile. "Good news. Julia can come by this evening after her clinic closes. She'll bring her portable equipment and check Rex thoroughly." "Will she tell Mom?" Noah asked anxiously. "Not right away," Mrs. Wilson assured him. "But, Noah, your mother will have to know soon. We can't keep a dog this size hidden in your backyard forever." Noah nodded reluctantly. "I know. But what if those men come looking for him? They said Rex was important. Leverage, they called him." Mrs. Wilson's expression turned thoughtful. "Leverage against whom, I wonder?" She studied Rex more closely. "You know, a few years ago, there was a police dog that went missing after his handler was killed. It was a big story in the news. The dog was never found." Noah's eyes widened. "You think Rex might be a police dog?" "It's possible." Mrs. Wilson leaned closer to Rex, examining the heavy collar still attached to his neck. The padlock securing it was too strong to break, and the chain still dangled from it, though they had wrapped it in cloth to keep it from rattling. "There's something here, under all this dirt and rust." She rubbed at a metal plate on the collar. As the grime came away, letters began to emerge. "K9 Unit," Mrs. Wilson read slowly, "and a number, K9 Unit 447. Noah gasped. "He is a police dog. But why would those men have him? Why did they say he was leverage?" Before Mrs. Wilson could answer, a sharp voice cut through the air. "Noah James Parker, what on earth is going on out here?" Noah whirled around to see his mother standing at the entrance to the fort, her eyes wide with shock as she took in the scene. Her son, their elderly neighbor, and a large, clearly injured German shepherd wearing a police K9 collar. The moment of truth had arrived much sooner than Noah had planned. "Mom," he began, his voice shaking. "I can explain." Hannah stepped into the fort, her face a mix of confusion and concern. "Noah, where did this dog come from? Is he hurt? Mrs. Wilson, what's happening?" Mrs. Wilson stood, brushing dirt from her pants. "Your son is quite the hero, Hannah. He rescued this dog from an abusive situation, and I believe there's much more to this story than meets the eye." Hannah knelt beside Rex, who regarded her warily but allowed her to stroke his head. "He's injured," she said, her voice softening as she noticed the bandages and wounds. "Who would do this to an animal?" "Bad men," Noah said, the words tumbling out now that the secret was revealed. "They keep him chained up in the abandoned house across the street. They don't feed him enough, and they hit him. He just sits there all day watching cartoons on an old TV. I had to help him, Mom. I had to." Instead of the anger Noah expected, understanding dawned in Hannah's eyes. "The dog you said you saw through the window," she said quietly. "You weren't making it up." "No." Noah's lower lip trembled. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you. I was scared those men would find out and hurt Rex, or hurt us." Hannah pulled Noah into a tight hug. "Oh, sweetie, I understand why you were scared, but this was dangerous. Those men could have caught you in their house. You should have told me." "I know." Noah buried his face in his mother's shoulder, tears of relief flowing now that the weight of his secret was lifted. "But look, Mom, Mrs. Wilson says Rex is a police dog. See his collar?" Hannah examined the collar, her expression growing serious. "K9 Unit 447, she read. "This is definitely a police dog, but why would he be held in that house? And who are these men you mentioned?" "I overheard them talking," Noah explained. "They said Rex was leverage against his old partner, that as long as they had Rex, his partner wouldn't make trouble." Hannah and Mrs. Wilson exchanged meaningful looks over Noah's head. "I think we need to call the police," Hannah said firmly, "not just for Rex's sake, but for ours too. If these men are dangerous—" "Wait," Mrs. Wilson interrupted. "Before we do that, my friend Dr. Julia is coming to check on Rex this evening. She has connections with the local animal rescue community and might know something about a missing police dog. Let's hear what she has to say first." Hannah hesitated, clearly torn between her instinct to contact authorities immediately and her trust in their neighbor. "Please, Mom," Noah begged. "What if the police take Rex away? What if they put him in a pound? He needs us." Hannah sighed, relenting. "All right, we'll wait for Dr. Julia, but if she thinks we should call the police, we do it immediately. Deal?" "Deal," Noah agreed, relief washing over him. He turned back to Rex, who was watching the whole exchange with alert eyes. "Did you hear that, boy? We're going to help you, for real this time." Rex's tail thumped against the floor of the fort, and for the first time since Noah had met him, the dog's eyes held something new, a spark of hope. As they waited for Dr. Julia to arrive, Noah couldn't help but wonder about Rex's mysterious past. Who was his partner? What trouble were those men trying to avoid? And most importantly, was Rex's partner still out there somewhere, searching for his lost companion? The answers would come soon enough, but for now, Rex was safe, and that was all that mattered to Noah. The afternoon stretched on, the sun casting long shadows across the backyard as it began its descent. Noah stayed by Rex's side, talking to him softly, telling him stories, promising him a future full of treats and walks and love. Rex listened attentively, his intelligent eyes never leaving Noah's face, his tail thumping whenever the boy said something particularly exciting. Hannah brought out fresh water and some leftover chicken from dinner the night before, which Rex accepted gratefully but with careful manners that further convinced them of his special training. "He eats like he's been taught," Hannah observed. "So polite, even though he must be starving." "Police dogs receive intensive training," Mrs. Wilson explained. "They're not just pets, they're working professionals." As the light began to fade, headlights swept across the street, and a small blue car pulled up in front of their house. A woman in her 40s with curly red hair and wearing scrubs with paw prints on them approached the gate, carrying a large medical bag. "That's Dr. Julia," Mrs. Wilson said, going to greet her friend. Hannah looked at Noah seriously. "After Dr. Julia examines Rex, we need to make some decisions, okay? This is bigger than just finding a stray dog. If Rex really is a police K9, there are proper channels we need to go through." Noah nodded reluctantly. "I know, but can we make sure he's safe first? Those men might come looking for him." "We'll keep him safe," Hannah promised, squeezing Noah's shoulder. "You were very brave to help him, even if you should have told me first." Dr. Julia entered the backyard with Mrs. Wilson, her face kind but professional. "So, this is our patient," she said, approaching Rex slowly. "Hello there, big fellow." Rex watched her carefully, but didn't growl or back away. He seemed to sense she was there to help. "May I?" Dr. Julia asked Noah, gesturing toward Rex. Noah nodded. "It's okay, Rex. She's going to help you feel better." Dr. Julia examined Rex thoroughly, checking his wounds, testing his reflexes, looking in his ears and mouth. Rex submitted to the examination with stoic patience. "He's malnourished and dehydrated," Dr. Julia reported. "The leg is badly sprained but not broken. The cuts and bruises will heal with proper care." She pointed to a small area behind Rex's ear. "But the most interesting thing is this." Noah leaned closer to see what Dr. Julia was pointing at. There, barely visible beneath Rex's fur, was a small raised bump. "That's a microchip," Dr. Julia explained. "All registered service dogs have them. If we scan it, we can find out exactly who this dog belongs to." Noah's heart sank. If Rex had a microchip, that meant he had an owner, someone who could take him away. Dr. Julia pulled a small handheld scanner from her bag. "Let's see what we've got." She passed the scanner over the microchip, and the device beeped, displaying a series of numbers. Dr. Julia's eyes widened as she read the information. "Oh my," she breathed. This changes everything." "What is it?" Hannah asked anxiously. "Who does he belong to?" Dr. Julia looked up, her face serious. "According to this chip, this dog is K9 Officer Max, registered to the Metropolitan Police Department. He was reported missing in action 3 years ago, presumed dead, after his handler, Detective Tom Grant, was killed during an undercover operation." A stunned silence fell over the group. "Missing for 3 years?" Noah whispered, stroking Max's head gently. "You've been with those bad men all this time?" Max whined softly, pressing closer to Noah. "This is definitely a police matter now," Dr. Julia said firmly. "We need to contact the K9 unit immediately." "But what about those men?" Noah asked, fear creeping back into his voice. "What if they come looking for Max?" Dr. Julia's expression softened. I understand your concern, but the police need to know. This dog was part of a case where an officer died. His disappearance might be connected to Detective Grant's death. Hannah nodded, her decision made. Dr. Julia is right. We need to call the police, but, she added, seeing Noah's distress, we'll make sure they understand that Max is injured and needs care, and we'll ask if he can stay with us until he recovers. Noah looked down at Max, tears welling in his eyes. I don't want him to go, he whispered. Hannah knelt beside her son. I know, sweetie, but Max had a life before, a purpose. He might be the key to solving what happened to his handler. Don't you think Detective Grant's family deserves to know the truth? Noah nodded slowly, understanding the weight of what his mother was saying. Okay, he agreed finally, but can I stay with him until the police come? I don't want him to be scared. Of course, Hannah said, hugging Noah tight. You're his hero after all. You saved him when no one else could. As Hannah stepped away to call the police, and Dr. Julia prepared some medication for Max's pain, Noah sat close to the brave dog, his arm draped over Max's broad shoulders. You're going to be okay now, he promised, his voice thick with emotion. The bad men can't hurt you anymore, and maybe you can help catch them, like you used to do with Detective Grant. Max looked up at Noah, his brown eyes full of understanding, and for just a moment, Noah could have sworn he saw a flash of something else, a determination, a spark of the police dog Max had once been, ready to fulfill his duty once more. The mystery of Max's past was about to unravel, bringing with it dangers Noah couldn't yet imagine. But one thing was certain. Finding this dog watching cartoons through a window had changed everything, not just for Max, but for Noah and his mother too. Their lives were now entangled in a story much bigger than they had ever expected, and it had all begun with a boy's compassion for a lonely dog. The police arrived within 30 minutes of Hannah's call, 2 patrol cars and an unmarked SUV. Noah watched nervously from the fort as officers in uniform approached the house. Max tensed beside him, his body rigid with uncertainty. It's okay, Noah whispered, stroking Max's head. They're here to help. A tall woman with dark hair pulled back in a tight bun stepped forward from the group. Unlike the others, she wasn't in uniform but wore a blazer with a badge clipped to her belt. She introduced herself to Hannah as Detective Mercer, K-9 Division Supervisor. The dog is back here, Hannah explained, leading the officers toward the fort. My son found him in the abandoned house across the street. Noah held his breath as Detective Mercer entered the fort, her sharp eyes taking in the scene. Noah sitting protectively beside Max, Mrs. Wilson, and Dr. Julia hovering nearby. Max's ears perked up at the sight of the police uniforms, but he remained pressed against Noah's side. Well, I'll be damned, Detective Mercer breathed, kneeling slowly to get a better look at Max. It really is him. You recognize him? Hannah asked. Detective Mercer nodded, emotion briefly crossing her professional facade. K-9 Officer Max was legendary in our department. He and his handler, Tom Grant, had the highest success rate in the unit's history. She reached out slowly, allowing Max to sniff her hand before gently touching his head. We thought he was gone forever. Max's tail gave a hesitant wag, as if he recognized something familiar in Detective Mercer's scent or uniform. Can you tell us what happened? Hannah asked. Dr. Julia said Max disappeared 3 years ago. Detective Mercer's face darkened. Detective Grant was working an undercover case. Corruption within the department linked to a local crime syndicate. The night he was killed, Max disappeared. We assumed the killer took Max out too. She looked at the dog with wonder. To find him alive after all this time? Noah spoke up, his voice small but determined. Bad men were keeping him in that house. They hurt him and didn't feed him enough. They said he was leverage against his partner. Detective Mercer's eyes sharpened. You saw these men? Can you describe them? Noah nodded, recounting what he had seen and heard in the abandoned house. Detective Mercer listened intently, occasionally exchanging meaningful glances with the other officers. This is potentially significant to an ongoing investigation, she said finally. We'll need to take Max in, run some tests, have our vet examine him. No, Noah cried, wrapping his arms around Max's neck. He's hurt. He needs to stay here where he feels safe. Detective Mercer's expression softened. I understand how you feel, buddy. You saved him, and that makes you his hero. But Max is a key witness now. He might be the break we've been waiting for in Detective Grant's murder case. Tears welled in Noah's eyes. But what if those men come back? What if they hurt him again? We'll have officers watching your house and the abandoned property, Detective Mercer assured him. No one's going to hurt Max or your family. Hannah knelt beside Noah. Sweetie, the police need to do their job, and Max needs specialized care from the police veterinarian. Can I at least visit him? Noah asked, his voice cracking. Detective Mercer smiled. Tell you what, once our vet gives Max the all clear, we'll arrange for you to come to the K9 facility. You can see where our dogs train and visit with Max. How does that sound? It wasn't what Noah wanted, but he recognized it was the best offer he was likely to get. He nodded reluctantly. That's a brave boy, Detective Mercer said approvingly. She turned to Hannah. We'll need to take formal statements from all of you, especially Noah, and we'll need to investigate that abandoned house immediately, before anyone returns. While the other officers prepared to transport Max and secure the abandoned house, Detective Mercer had Noah walk her through exactly what he'd seen and heard. Noah recounted every detail. The chained dog, the playing cartoons, the men's conversation about leverage, and Max's old partner. You've been incredibly brave, Detective Mercer told Noah when he finished. Most adults wouldn't have the courage to do what you did. Noah watched with a heavy heart as they loaded Max into a specially equipped police van. The dog looked back at Noah, his brown eyes seeming to say thank you and goodbye all at once. We'll take good care of him, Detective Mercer promised, and you'll see him again soon. After the police left, the house felt strangely empty. Hannah pulled Noah into a tight hug. I'm so proud of you, she whispered, but also a little mad that you put yourself in danger. No more sneaking into abandoned houses. Understood? Noah nodded against her shoulder. Do you think Max will be okay? I do, Hannah said. The police will make sure he gets the best care, and now, because of you, they might finally solve Detective Grant's murder. That night, Noah couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Max, wondering if the dog was scared in his new surroundings, if he was missing Noah as much as Noah missed him. His room felt too quiet without the knowledge that, just across the street, a brave dog was watching cartoons, waiting for his daily visit. Noah got up and went to his window, looking out at the abandoned house. Police tape now surrounded the property, and a patrol car was parked out front. The house looked different now, less mysterious, more sad. Just an empty building that had been used to hide a stolen police dog. Please be okay, Max, Noah whispered into the darkness. The next morning, Hannah kept Noah home from school, correctly guessing that he'd be too distracted to focus. Around noon, Detective Mercer called with an update. Hannah put the call on speaker so Noah could listen. Max is doing well, Detective Mercer reported. Our vet says he's undernourished and has some injuries that need time to heal, but nothing life-threatening. He's settled into our K9 rehabilitation facility. Does he seem happy? Noah asked anxiously. He's still adjusting, Detective Mercer said honestly, but he's eating well and responding to basic commands. These are good signs. What about the abandoned house? Hannah asked. Did you find anything? We did. Detective Mercer's voice turned serious. I can't share too many details of an ongoing investigation, but I can tell you that Max led us to something important. A hidden compartment in the basement containing evidence related to Detective Grant's murder. Noah gasped. So, Max really is helping solve the case? He is, Detective Mercer confirmed. And so are you, Noah. The information you gave us about those men has been extremely helpful. We've identified one of them as Victor Reese, a former officer who was dismissed around the same time Detective Grant was investigating departmental corruption. We believe he may have been involved in Grant's death, and took Max afterward as a sort of insurance policy. What happens now? Hannah asked. We're conducting a citywide search for Reese and his associates. In the meantime, we'll continue to have patrols monitoring your neighborhood. We don't think they'll return to the abandoned house now that it's been discovered, but we're not taking any chances. After the call ended, Noah sat quietly at the kitchen table, processing everything he'd heard. Mom, he said finally, do you think Max will ever come back to us? Hannah hesitated, clearly torn between honesty and comfort. I don't know, sweetie. Max is a police dog with special training. He had a life and a purpose before all this happened. But what I do know is that you saved him, and that connection will always be special, no matter where Max ends up. Noah nodded, trying to accept his mother's words, even as his heart ached at the thought of never seeing Max again. Later that afternoon, the doorbell rang. Hannah answered it to find an older woman with silver-streaked hair and familiar blue eyes standing on their porch. Detective Mercer stood behind her. "Mrs. Parker, I'm Elizabeth Grant, Detective Tom Grant's sister," the woman said, her voice gentle but strong. "I understand your son found Max." Hannah invited them in, calling Noah from his room. When Noah saw Detective Mercer, his first question was immediate. "Is Max okay?" Detective Mercer smiled. "He's doing better today. Actually, that's part of why we're here. Ms. Grant wanted to meet you." Elizabeth Grant knelt to Noah's level, her eyes swimming with emotion. "Thank you," she said simply. "You found a piece of my brother that I thought was gone forever." Noah wasn't sure what to say. "Max is really brave," he offered finally. "And smart." "Yes, he is," Elizabeth agreed with a sad smile. "Tom and Max were inseparable. After Tom died, I grieved for both of them. To know that Max survived all this time..." She trailed off, overcome. "Ms. Grant works with a foundation that supports police K-9 programs," Detective Mercer explained. "She's been consulting with our veterinary team about Max's recovery." "How is he doing? Really?" Noah asked. Elizabeth's expression grew serious. "He's physically improving, but emotionally, he's struggling. He spent 3 years in captivity, and before that, he experienced the trauma of losing his handler. Dogs like Max form incredibly strong bonds with their people." "He bonded with Noah," Hannah pointed out. "In just a few days, he trusted him enough to help with his rescue." Elizabeth nodded thoughtfully. "That's actually why I'm here." She turned back to Noah. "Max isn't responding well to the rehabilitation facility. He's withdrawn, not eating much. The vet thinks he might be experiencing severe separation anxiety, first from Detective Grant, and now from you." Noah's heart clenched. "He's sad? Because he misses me?" "We think so," Detective Mercer confirmed. "We've tried introducing him to other handlers, but he's not connecting with any of them." "Which brings me to my question," Elizabeth said. "Would you be willing to help with Max's rehabilitation? To visit him regularly? Maybe even have him stay here sometimes when he's well enough?" Noah's eyes widened. "Yes, yes, I would." Hannah looked concerned. "Are you sure that's a good idea? Those men are still out there, and Max is evidence in a murder investigation." "Max will always have police protection," Detective Mercer assured her. "As for being evidence, his value is in what he led us to in that house, which we've already secured. There's no investigative reason to keep him isolated in a facility where he's unhappy." Elizabeth took Hannah's hand. "I understand your concerns, but Max has been through so much trauma. Noah is the first person he's trusted in 3 years. That bond could be crucial to his recovery." Hannah looked at Noah's hopeful face and sighed. "If you both think it's best for Max, then of course we'll help any way we can." "When can I see him?" Noah asked eagerly. "How about tomorrow after school?" Detective Mercer suggested. "We'll send a patrol car to pick you up. Max is staying at our K-9 training facility outside the city." That night, Noah could hardly sleep, too excited about seeing Max the next day. He gathered his stuffed animals, selecting a well-loved teddy bear to give to Max. "You can keep him company when I'm not there," he told the bear solemnly. The next day dragged by, each minute feeling like an hour. When the patrol car finally arrived, Noah raced out the door, the teddy bear tucked under his arm. Hannah followed more sedately, having arranged to take the afternoon off work. The K-9 facility was impressive, a sprawling complex with training grounds, obstacle courses, and a modern building housing kennels, veterinary services, and offices. Detective Mercer met them at the entrance. "Max is in a special quiet room," she explained as she led them through the building. "He's still recovering, so we're limiting his activity and keeping him away from the other dogs for now." She stopped outside a door marked Rehabilitation Suite 3. "He's been pretty withdrawn with everyone else," she warned, "so don't be disappointed if he's not very responsive." Noah nodded, suddenly nervous. What if Max didn't remember him? What if their connection had been broken by the separation? Detective Mercer opened the door. The room inside was comfortable, with a soft bed, toys, and a window overlooking a grassy area. Max lay on the bed, his back to the door, his posture dejected. "Max," Detective Mercer called softly, "you have visitors." The dog's ears twitched, but he didn't turn around. Noah stepped forward hesitantly. "Max," he called, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's me, Noah." Max's head shot up. He turned, eyes locking on Noah, and for a moment, time seemed to freeze. Then, with a joyful bark that seemed to release all the tension in the room, Max leapt from the bed and bounded toward Noah, his injured leg forgotten in his excitement. Noah dropped to his knees as Max reached him, burying his face in the dog's fur as Max whined and licked his face, tail wagging furiously. "I missed you too, boy," Noah laughed through his tears. Hannah and Detective Mercer watched the reunion with matching smiles. "I haven't seen him this animated since he arrived," Detective Mercer remarked. "Your son really does have a special connection with him." Over the next hour, Noah played quietly with Max, showing him the teddy bear, which Max immediately adopted, carrying it back to his bed and positioning it carefully, telling him about school, and assuring him that the bad men would be caught soon. "He looks like a different dog," Elizabeth Grant commented, having joined them partway through the visit. "There's life in his eyes again." When it was time to leave, Noah knelt beside Max's bed. "I have to go now, but I'll come back soon, I promise. And maybe someday you can come stay with us." Max whined, resting his head on Noah's knee, clearly reluctant to see him go. "Actually," Elizabeth said, exchanging a look with Detective Mercer, "we've been discussing that possibility. Max needs a stable environment to recover, somewhere he feels safe. Our veterinary behaviorist thinks he'd do better in a home setting than here at the facility." Noah's heart leapt with hope. "You mean he could come live with us?" "Not permanently," Detective Mercer cautioned. "At least, not yet. Max is still a police asset, and there's still an ongoing investigation. But as a foster arrangement, while he recovers, it might be possible." "There would be conditions," Elizabeth added. "Regular check-ins with the police vet, continued protection for your home, and an understanding that Max might eventually be reassigned to active duty if he fully recovers." Hannah looked uncertain. "It's a lot of responsibility and potential danger." "Mom, please," Noah begged. "Max needs us, and I need him too." Hannah looked at her son's pleading face, then at Max, who was watching the conversation intently, as if he understood exactly what was being discussed. "We'll need to talk about the security arrangements," she said finally. "But if you think it's best for Max, then yes, we're willing to foster him." Noah's face lit up with joy. He turned to Max, who was already wagging his tail as if he had understood every word. "Did you hear that, boy? You're coming home with us." Detective Mercer held up a hand. "Not today. We need to set up security protocols first, and Max needs one more thorough checkup. But if all goes well, maybe by this weekend." The next few days passed in a blur of preparations. Hannah cleared out a corner of the living room for Max's bed, while Noah selected toys and researched the best foods for recovering dogs. Detective Mercer arranged for security cameras to be installed around their property and set up a patrol schedule for the neighborhood. On Saturday morning, an unmarked police SUV pulled up in front of their house. Detective Mercer emerged from the driver's side, while another officer carefully helped Max from the back. The German Shepherd was looking better already, his coat shinier, his step a little steadier, though he still favored his healing leg. Noah ran down the front steps, barely containing his excitement. Max spotted him and strained toward him, only the leash holding him back. Detective Mercer chuckled and released the dog. Max bounded across the yard, nearly knocking Noah over in his enthusiasm. "Hey, boy, welcome home," Noah laughed, kneeling to receive Max's excited kisses. Detective Mercer followed with a bag of medications and care instructions. "He's doing much better physically," she reported to Hannah. "The limp should resolve completely with time and proper exercise. Emotionally, well," she gestured to where Max was practically dancing around Noah. "I'd say this arrangement is already working wonders." Max settled into their home as if he had always belonged there. He followed Noah everywhere, sleeping beside his bed at night, waiting by the door when Noah went to school, and greeting him with unbridled joy upon his return. Even Hannah, initially hesitant about having a large dog in their small house, soon fell under Max's spell, especially when she noticed how his protective instincts extended to her as well. "He checked all the doors and windows last night," she told Noah one morning, "just like he was doing a security sweep. I actually felt safer knowing he was on guard." But the investigation into Detective Grant's murder and the corrupt officers involved was far from over. Victor Reese and his associates remained at large, and the evidence Max had led them to had opened up new angles in the case, implicating several current and former officers. A week after Max came to stay with them, Noah woke in the middle of the night to the sound of Max growling, a low, dangerous rumble, unlike anything he had heard from the gentle dog before. Max stood rigid at the bedroom window, hackles raised, staring into the darkness of the backyard. "What is it, boy?" Noah whispered, joining Max at the window. In the dim glow of the security lights, Noah saw a shadow moving near the back fence, a figure dressed in dark clothing, trying to stay hidden in the shrubbery. Max's growl deepened, his body tense with recognition and anger. Noah's blood ran cold. It was one of the men from the abandoned house, the one with the tattoos. Victor Reese. He had come for Max. "Mom!" Noah called out, his voice shaking. "Mom, wake up!" Hannah appeared in the doorway, alarmed by her son's cry. "What's wrong?" "There's someone in the backyard," Noah whispered. "I think it's one of the men who hurt Max." Hannah's face paled. She grabbed her phone from her pocket. "I'm calling Detective Mercer," she said, moving to the window to see for herself. "The panic button for the security system is downstairs. I need to get to it." As if sensing their fear, Max's protective instinct kicked into overdrive. He positioned himself between Noah and the window, his teeth bared, ready to defend his new family at any cost. Outside, the shadowy figure moved closer to the house, now clearly visible as he approached the back door. It was definitely Victor Reese. And he wasn't alone. A second figure joined him from around the side of the house. "They're trying to break in," Hannah whispered, her phone pressed to her ear. "Detective Mercer says officers are on their way, but it will take a few minutes. We need to get to the panic button." Max suddenly tensed, his ears pricked forward. He turned toward the bedroom door, growling at a new sound, the soft scrape of someone testing the back door handle. "They're inside," Hannah gasped, pushing Noah behind her. Max took action. With a bark that seemed to shake the walls, he bolted from the room, racing down the stairs toward the intruders. Noah and Hannah could hear shouts of surprise, followed by a crash and a cry of pain. "Stay here," Hannah ordered Noah, but he was already following her down the stairs, terrified for Max's safety. In the kitchen, they found chaos. Max had one man pinned to the floor, his teeth clamped around the intruder's arm. Victor Reese was backing toward the door, a look of fear on his face as he confronted the dog he had abused for years, now transformed into a forceful defender. "Call him off," Reese shouted, his voice shaking. "Call your dog off or I'll shoot him." Hannah pushed Noah behind her, her voice steady despite her fear. "Police are on their way, Reese. You're surrounded. Give yourself up now." Reese hesitated, his hand moving toward his waistband. Max, sensing the threat, released the first man and turned his attention to Reese, a growl building in his throat. "Don't do it," Hannah warned. "Max was one of the best police dogs in the department. He's faster than you think." Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Reese's eyes darted toward the door, calculating his chances. Then, with a curse, he lunged forward, trying to reach Noah and Hannah. Max exploded into action. He launched himself at Reese, hitting him squarely in the chest and sending him crashing to the floor. In seconds, the dog had him pinned, teeth bared inches from the man's throat, a low growl rumbling continuously. The first intruder tried to rise, but Hannah, finding courage she didn't know she had, grabbed a frying pan from the stove and stood ready. "Don't even think about it," she warned. Moments later, police officers burst through the door, weapons drawn. Detective Mercer followed, taking in the scene with a quick glance. Max holding Reese immobile, Hannah standing guard over the second intruder, Noah watching wide-eyed from the doorway. "K9 Officer Max," Detective Mercer said formally. "Stand down." To everyone's amazement, Max immediately released Reese, backing away but remaining vigilant as the officers handcuffed both intruders. "You trained him well, Grant," Reese spat as he was hauled to his feet. "Even after 3 years, he still follows commands." "That's because he's a better officer than you ever were," Detective Mercer replied coldly. She turned to Noah and Hannah. "Are you both okay?" Hannah nodded, the frying pan still clutched in her hand. "Thanks to Max, he knew they were here before we did. He protected us." Detective Mercer smiled, kneeling to ruffle Max's fur affectionately. "Good boy, Max. You never forgot your training, did you?" As the officers led Reese and his accomplice away, Noah knelt beside Max, wrapping his arms around the brave dog's neck. "You saved us," he whispered, "just like you used to save people with Detective Grant." Max leaned into Noah's embrace, his mission complete, his family safe. Later, as they all sat in the living room, unable to sleep after the excitement, Detective Mercer explained what had happened. "We've been closing in on Reese and his network all week," she said. He must have realized we were about to catch him and decided to make one last attempt to eliminate the evidence, Max. But why was Max so important? Hannah asked. What did he know? It wasn't what Max knew, Detective Mercer explained. It was what he could find. Max was specially trained in evidence detection. He and Detective Grant were investigating a ring of corrupt officers who were working with local drug dealers. On the night Grant was killed, Max had located critical evidence, a flash drive containing names, dates, transactions. Reese and his associates took Max afterward, hoping to use him to find any other evidence Grant might have hidden. But Max wouldn't help them, Noah said proudly. Detective Mercer nodded. Exactly. No matter what they did, Max wouldn't work for them. So they kept him, both as leverage against any of Grant's other partners who might come looking, and as a means to find any remaining evidence if they could break his loyalty. Which they never did, Hannah said softly, stroking Max's head. No, Detective Mercer agreed. His loyalty to Grant, and now to you, never wavered. As dawn broke, casting golden light across the living room, Detective Mercer stood to leave. I'll have officers stationed outside for the next few days, but the immediate danger is over. Reese and his primary associate are in custody, and based on what we found in their possession, we'll be able to round up the rest of their network. She looked down at Max, who had finally fallen asleep with his head on Noah's lap. As for this guy, I think it's time we make some decisions about his future. Noah's heart sank. Now that the case was breaking open, would they take Max back to the K9 unit? Would he have to say goodbye to his brave friend? What kind of decisions? Hannah asked, seeing her son's distress. Detective Mercer smiled. Well, given his age and injuries, Max will almost certainly be retired from active duty, and retired K9 officers need homes, preferably with people they have already bonded with. Hope bloomed in Noah's chest. You mean... If you're willing, Detective Mercer continued, we'd like to officially place Max with you for adoption. He's found his new partner, it seems. Tears of joy filled Noah's eyes. Yes, we want to adopt him. Hannah laughed, wiping away her own tears. I guess we're a two-person, one-dog family now. Max, as if sensing the decision that had been made, opened his eyes and looked up at Noah. His tail thumped against the couch, and he let out a contented sigh that seemed to say, Finally, I'm home. In the weeks that followed, life settled into a new normal for Noah, Hannah, and Max. The German Shepherd's physical wounds healed rapidly with proper care and nutrition. His emotional scars took longer, but Noah's unwavering love and patience worked wonders. Max still had nightmares sometimes, whimpering in his sleep, paws twitching as if running from unseen dangers, but they became less frequent as time passed. Detective Mercer visited regularly, both to check on Max and to update them on the investigation. Victor Reese and several other corrupt former officers had been charged with Detective Grant's murder, along with multiple counts of evidence tampering, obstruction of justice, and animal cruelty for their treatment of Max. The trial starts next month, Detective Mercer told them one evening over coffee, while Noah and Max played in the backyard. We'll need Noah to testify about what he saw and heard in that abandoned house. Do you think he's up for it? Hannah watched her son through the window, smiling as he threw a ball for Max to chase. He's stronger than you'd think. If it means justice for Max and Detective Grant, he'll do it. And what about Max? Detective Mercer asked. The prosecutor wants him in the courtroom during key testimony. Dogs can't testify, of course, but his presence will make a powerful impact on the jury. Hannah hesitated. Would that be traumatic for him, seeing those men again? Our K9 behavioral specialist doesn't think so. Max has shown remarkable resilience, especially since coming to live with you. And Noah will be there too. His presence should keep Max calm. Outside, Noah laughed as Max returned the ball, dropping it at his feet with exaggerated care. The dog looked nothing like the scared, skinny creature Noah had found watching cartoons through a window. His coat gleamed with health, his eyes bright with intelligence and happiness. They've both been through so much, Hannah said softly. I just want to protect them. Detective Mercer nodded understandingly. That's natural, but there's something else you should know. She pulled a folder from her bag and slid it across the table. This is related to the evidence Max led us to in the abandoned house. Hannah opened the folder to find photographs of what appeared to be an old flash drive, retrieved from a hiding place behind a loose brick in the basement wall. When our tech team analyzed the contents, they found something unexpected, Detective Mercer continued. Detective Grant had been recording his interactions with the corrupt officers, gathering evidence against them. On the night he was killed, he must have hidden this drive, knowing Max could find it later if necessary. That's why they kept Max alive, Hannah realized. They knew the evidence was out there somewhere, and they thought Max could lead them to it. Exactly, but Max refused to cooperate with them, even after years of mistreatment. His loyalty to Grant was unbreakable. Detective Mercer's eyes shone with admiration for the dog. What they didn't count on was a brave little boy noticing a dog watching cartoons through a window. Hannah smiled, moved by the detective's words. Noah has always had a special connection with animals. Ever since he was a baby, he could sense when they needed help. Well, this time that connection might help us bring down an entire network of corrupt officers and the drug dealers they were protecting. Detective Mercer closed the folder. The flash drive contains names we didn't even suspect were involved. This case goes higher up than anyone realized. The implications of her words sank in. Is Noah in danger? Hannah asked bluntly. Are we? We don't think so. The main players are in custody, and we're watching the others carefully. Plus, Detective Mercer added with a wry smile, you have one of our best former K-9 officers living in your house. The security system we installed is top-notch, and patrols will continue to monitor your neighborhood. But if you ever feel unsafe, call me directly. After Detective Mercer left, Hannah joined Noah and Max in the backyard. The evening was warm, the sunset painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. Noah had his arm around Max's neck, both of them watching a butterfly flit among the flowers in Hannah's small garden. Detective Mercer said you and Max might need to go to court, Hannah said, sitting beside them on the grass, to help put away the bad men who hurt Max and Detective Grant. Noah looked up, his expression serious beyond his years. Will I have to talk in front of everyone? Yes, but I'll be right there with you, and so will Detective Mercer. Noah nodded thoughtfully, then looked at Max. What about Max? Will he be scared to see those men again? Hannah stroked Max's head. Detective Mercer doesn't think so. Max is much stronger now, and he'll have you there to keep him brave. Max leaned into Noah's side, his brown eyes seeming to understand every word. Sometimes Hannah marveled at the dog's intelligence, at how human-like his expressions could be. It was as if he carried a piece of Detective Grant's spirit within him, a legacy of the bond they had shared. We'll be brave together, Noah declared, hugging Max tightly. Won't we, boy? Max barked once, decisively, as if answering, yes. The day of the trial arrived with clear skies and mild temperatures. Noah wore his best clothes, a button-up shirt and khaki pants that Hannah had ironed the night before. Max had been groomed professionally for the occasion, his coat gleaming, a new K-9 service vest marking his status as a retired police dog. The courthouse was intimidating, all marble floors and echoing hallways. Noah held tightly to Max's leash, drawing courage from the dog's calm presence. Detective Mercer met them at the entrance, her normally casual attire replaced by a formal suit. You look very handsome today, Noah, she said warmly. Both of you do. Noah managed a nervous smile. Will I see the bad men? Yes, but they can't hurt you. They'll be guarded by officers at all times. Detective Mercer knelt to Noah's level. Remember, all you have to do is tell the truth about what you saw and heard in that house. Your testimony is very important. I remember everything, Noah assured her. I won't forget a single detail. The courtroom fell silent as they entered. Noah felt dozens of eyes on him, but he focused on walking steadily, Max padding faithfully by his side. At the front of the room, 2 tables faced the judge's bench. At one sat the prosecutor, a serious woman in a dark suit. At the other sat Victor Reese and his accomplice, flanked by their lawyers. Noah felt Max tense slightly at the sight of Reese, a low growl rumbling in his chest. It's okay, boy, Noah whispered. They can't hurt you anymore. Max quieted, pressing closer to Noah's side as they took their seats in a special area near the witness stand. Hannah squeezed Noah's hand reassuringly as they waited for proceedings to begin. The trial moved slowly, with many legal procedures Noah didn't understand. But when it was finally his turn to testify, he found his voice steady, his memories clear. He described finding Max in the abandoned house, the terrible conditions the dog was kept in, and the conversation he had overheard between Reese and his partner. They said Max was leverage against his old partner, Noah testified. They said as long as they had him, his partner wouldn't make trouble. The prosecutor showed Noah photographs of the abandoned house, of the chained dog, of the hiding place where the flash drive had been found. "Is this where you found the dog?" she asked. "Yes," Noah confirmed. "He was chained to that radiator. The TV was always playing cartoons. I think that's how they kept him quiet. He loved watching them." Throughout Noah's testimony, Max sat perfectly still beside him, his intelligent eyes fixed on the proceedings, as if he too were giving testimony in his own way. When Noah was done, the prosecutor called Detective Mercer to the stand. She explained the evidence found on the flash drive, the connection to Detective Grant's murder, and Max's role in both the original investigation and its resolution. Canine Officer Max was specially trained in evidence detection, she testified. He and Detective Grant were pioneers in using dogs to find electronic storage devices, weapons, and drugs. Max could find a microchip hidden inside a mattress or a flash drive concealed in a wall cavity. That made him incredibly valuable to the investigation, and incredibly dangerous to the defendants. As the trial progressed, Noah noticed something strange. Max had become increasingly alert, his attention fixed not on Reese or his accomplice, but on one particular spot in the gallery. A man sitting alone in the back row, partially hidden behind a pillar. Noah tugged gently on Hannah's sleeve. "Mom," he whispered, "Max keeps staring at that man in the back." Hannah followed his gaze, then discreetly signaled to Detective Mercer during a break in the proceedings. The detective glanced toward the back of the courtroom, her expression changing almost imperceptibly. "Stay here," she murmured to Hannah. "Don't draw attention to him." Detective Mercer spoke quietly to a bailiff, who nodded and slipped out of the courtroom. Moments later, two plainclothes officers entered and positioned themselves strategically near the back row. The man must have sensed something was wrong. He stood abruptly and headed for the door. Max began to growl, the sound rising in intensity as the man's pace quickened. "Hold him," Hannah warned, but it was too late. With a powerful lunge, Max broke free from Noah's grip and shot down the center aisle of the courtroom. Pandemonium erupted. The judge banged his gavel, calling for order. Reese half rose from his seat, only to be pushed back down by security. And Max, moving with the speed and precision of his police training days, intercepted the fleeing man at the door, knocking him to the ground and standing over him, teeth bared but not biting. The plainclothes officers converged on the scene, weapons drawn. "Police! Don't move!" The man beneath Max froze, his hands visible, his face ashen with fear. Noah watched in awe as Max maintained his position, a perfect hold without injury, just as he must have been trained to do years ago. Detective Mercer rushed forward, handcuffs ready. "Thomas Whitley," she announced loudly, "you're under arrest for conspiracy in the murder of Detective Tom Grant." A buzz of shock ran through the courtroom. Whitley was a name that had appeared on the flash drive, a high-ranking police official who had been implicated in the corruption scheme but hadn't yet been charged due to insufficient evidence. He came to watch the trial, Hannah realized, to see if the evidence would expose him. And Max recognized him, Noah added with pride, even after all these years. Once Whitley was secured and removed from the courtroom, Max returned calmly to Noah's side, sitting as if nothing unusual had happened. The judge, after conferring with the attorneys, called a recess until the next day. Outside the courthouse, reporters surrounded them, cameras flashing as Detective Mercer explained what had happened. Canine Officer Max demonstrated today that a police dog's training and instincts never truly fade, she told the crowd. His recognition of a suspect involved in his handler's murder case is a testament to his exceptional abilities and the bond he shared with Detective Grant. Noah stood tall beside Max, one hand resting on the dog's head, soaking in the moment, his shy, quiet nature momentarily forgotten in the pride he felt for his four-legged friend. "How does it feel to be the caretaker of a hero police dog?" one reporter asked Noah. Noah considered the question seriously. "Max was always a hero," he said finally. "He just needed someone to notice him watching cartoons through a window and give him a chance to be brave again." The story exploded across local and even national news. "Heroic K9 brings down corrupt official in dramatic courtroom scene," the headlines read. Photographs of Max and Noah filled the front pages of newspapers and news websites. Elizabeth Grant, Detective Grant's sister, called that evening, her voice thick with emotion. "I watched it all on the news," she told them. "Tom would have been so proud of Max today. and of you, Noah, for giving Max back his purpose." That night, as Noah prepared for bed, Hannah found him sitting on the floor with Max, going through a box of items that Elizabeth had dropped off earlier. Photographs of Detective Grant and Max in their working days, medals the team had earned, training certificates with Max's paw print beside his handler's signature. "They were really good together, weren't they?" Noah said, studying a photo of Detective Grant kneeling beside a younger Max, both of them in their police uniforms. "The best," Hannah agreed, sitting beside her son. "Just like you two are now." Noah picked up one particular photo, Max and Detective Grant standing proudly before a pile of evidence they had uncovered during a major drug bust. "Do you think Max still misses him?" he asked softly. Hannah chose her words carefully. "I think Max will always carry Detective Grant in his heart, just like Detective Grant's family will. But Max has found a new purpose now, and a new person to love." She smiled at her son. "You gave him that gift, Noah." Max, who had been lying quietly as they went through the box, suddenly stood and moved to a corner of Noah's room. He pawed at the floorboard, whining softly. "What is it, boy?" Noah asked, joining him. Max continued to paw at the same spot, his behavior reminiscent of his evidence detection training. Noah looked at his mother in confusion. "Is something under there?" Hannah wondered, kneeling to examine the floorboard. It looked no different from the others, but Max's insistence was unmistakable. Noah tried lifting the edge of the board. To his surprise, it came up easily, revealing a small cavity beneath. "Mom, look!" he gasped. Inside the cavity was a small metal box covered in dust, clearly hidden there long ago. Hannah gently lifted it out, turning it over in her hands. "This house is over 50 years old," she mused. "This could have been here for decades." Noah opened the box carefully. Inside was an old leather wallet, several yellow newspaper clippings, and a single key with a faded tag attached. "Whose are these?" "I don't know," Hannah admitted, examining the newspaper clippings. They were from the 1970s, detailing a series of bank robberies in the city. "This is strange. We should call Detective Mercer." Max sat back, his mission accomplished, watching them with what almost seemed like satisfaction in his intelligent eyes. "How did you know this was here, Max?" Noah asked in wonder. "Did you smell it?" Max tilted his head, his expression seeming to say, "Just doing my job." Detective Mercer arrived the next morning, intrigued by their discovery. She examined the contents of the box carefully, her excitement growing as she pieced together the story. "These newspaper clippings and this wallet belonged to Richard Harmon, a bank robber who disappeared in 1974 after stealing nearly $1 million, she explained. "The case was never solved. He and the money simply vanished." "And the key?" Hannah asked. Detective Mercer examined the faded tag. "Safety deposit box," she read. "First National Bank." She looked up, her eyes wide. This could lead to the missing money, or at least evidence about what happened to Harmon. And Max found it just by sensing something was hidden there. Noah beamed with pride, ruffling Max's fur. "He's still the best evidence dog ever." "That he is," Detective Mercer agreed. "The department would love to consult with Max occasionally, if you're willing. Not active duty, but special cases where his unique skills might help. With you present, of course, Noah." Noah's eyes lit up. "Like a team? Max and me?" "Exactly like a team," Detective Mercer confirmed. "You'd both receive special training, and Max would only work when he wants to. No pressure, no dangerous situations, just using his nose to find things other dogs might miss." For the first time since rescuing Max, Noah felt something slot into place. A purpose, a future that honored both what Max had been and what he had become. "I'd like that," he said. "I think Max would too." Max barked once, decisively, his tail wagging with enthusiasm. Hannah laughed. "I think that's a yes." The trial of Victor Reese, his accomplice, and now Thomas Whitley continued for several more weeks. The evidence from the flash drive, combined with testimony from Noah and several police officers, painted a damning picture of corruption and murder. Max attended court each day, a steady, calming presence by Noah's side. When the verdicts finally came in, guilty on all counts, a sense of closure settled over everyone involved. Detective Grant had finally received justice, and Max had played a crucial role in making it happen. As they left the courthouse for the last time, Elizabeth Grant approached them, a small wooden box in her hands. "I wanted you to have this," she said, presenting it to Noah. "It contains Tom's K9 handler badge and Max's original service medal, They belong together, and they belong with Max now. Noah accepted the box reverently. Thank you. We'll treasure it forever. Elizabeth knelt to Max's level, her hand gently stroking his head. You finished the job, old friend, she whispered. Tom would be so proud of you. Max leaned into her touch, his eyes soft with recognition, a bridge between past and present. As they walked home, the spring sun warm on their faces, Noah thought about the strange journey that had brought them to this point. It had begun with a glimpse through a window, a lonely dog watching cartoons in an abandoned house. It had led to justice for a murdered detective, the exposure of police corruption, and now a new beginning for both a boy and his extraordinary dog. You know what, Max? Noah said as they turned onto their street. I think we should watch some cartoons when we get home, for old time's sake. Max wagged his tail, bumping Noah's hand with his nose in agreement. Later, as they settled on the couch together, Hannah brought in popcorn and joined them. On the screen, animated characters had wild adventures, but the real adventure had been theirs. A boy who noticed a dog in need, a dog who never forgot his purpose, and the remarkable bond that had blossomed between them. You rescued me, Noah whispered to Max, arms around the dog's neck. Everyone thinks I rescued you, but really, you rescued me too. Max rested his head on Noah's lap, his eyes fixed not on the cartoons, but on the boy who had given him a second chance at life. In that quiet moment of connection, both boy and dog knew a simple truth. Sometimes the greatest acts of heroism begin with the smallest acts of kindness, like noticing a lonely dog watching cartoons through a window. Spring turned to summer, and life settled into a comfortable rhythm. Noah and Max had become a familiar sight around the neighborhood. The boy and his remarkable German shepherd, walking together each morning and evening. Max had filled out beautifully, his coat thick and glossy, his eyes bright with intelligence and contentment. The limp from his old injury had disappeared completely, and he moved with the fluid grace of a dog in his prime. Detective Mercer kept her promise about consulting with Max on special cases. Once a month, she would visit with puzzles that needed Max's unique talents, finding hidden evidence, locating items that had been concealed for years. Noah would watch with pride as Max worked, his nose leading him unerringly to whatever Detective Mercer had hidden in the backyard for practice. He's lost none of his skills, Detective Mercer observed one Saturday morning, watching Max locate a USB drive she'd buried beneath a pile of leaves. If anything, he seems sharper than ever. Noah beamed with pride as Max returned with the drive, dropping it gently at Detective Mercer's feet. He's happy now, Noah explained. That makes him better at everything. I can see that, Detective Mercer agreed, kneeling to scratch behind Max's ears. Both of you seem to have found exactly what you needed. Their peaceful routine was disrupted one evening in late July. Noah was in the backyard with Max, practicing the tracking exercises Detective Mercer had taught them, when Max suddenly froze, his entire body going rigid. His ears swiveled toward the street, picking up sounds Noah couldn't hear. What is it, boy? Noah asked, following Max's gaze. Max let out a low growl, his hackles rising. He positioned himself between Noah and the gate, his body language screaming danger. Noah felt his stomach clench with familiar fear, the same fear he'd felt the night Victor Reese had broken into their house. Mom, Noah called, backing toward the house. Mom, something's wrong. Hannah appeared at the back door, took one look at Max's defensive posture, and immediately understood. Inside now, she ordered, pulling out her phone to call Detective Mercer. As they hurried into the house, they heard a car door slam on the street. Heavy footsteps approached their front gate. Max positioned himself at the living room window, growling continuously now, his teeth bared. Stay away from the windows, Hannah instructed, her voice tense as she spoke into her phone. Detective Mercer, we need help. Max is acting like there's danger outside. Noah crept to the edge of the window and peered out carefully. A black sedan was parked across the street, and two men in dark suits were examining their house. These weren't the same men who had broken in before. These were strangers, but something about them made Noah's skin crawl. They're not police, Noah whispered to his mother. They don't look like police. Hannah finished her call and joined Noah at the window. Detective Mercer is sending patrol cars. They'll be here in 5 minutes. One of the men pointed at their house, then pulled out a phone and made a call. Even from inside, Noah could see the man's mouth moving animatedly, as if he were arguing with someone. Max's growling intensified. He began pacing between the window and the front door, his anxiety palpable. What do they want? Noah asked, his voice small. I don't know, sweetheart, Hannah admitted, pulling Noah away from the window, but we're safe inside, and help is coming. The sound of sirens filled the air, growing louder as they approached. The men by the sedan looked up sharply, then quickly got into their car and drove away, disappearing around the corner just as the first police car arrived. Detective Mercer arrived moments later, her expression grim. Tell me exactly what happened, she said, settling into their living room while Max remained vigilant by the window. Noah described the men, their car, and Max's unusual behavior. He knew they were dangerous before we even saw them, Noah explained. He always knows. Detective Mercer nodded thoughtfully. The trial convictions have made some people very unhappy. The drug network that Reese and Whitley were protecting has been seriously disrupted. It's possible they sent someone to intimidate you. But why? Hannah asked. The trial is over. Everyone's been convicted. There are appeals in process, Detective Mercer explained. And Max was instrumental in not just solving Detective Grant's murder, but in exposing the entire corruption network. Some very powerful people have lost a lot of money because of that. Noah felt a chill run down his spine. Are they going to keep coming after us? Detective Mercer's expression softened. I won't lie to you, Noah. There might be more threats, but we're not going to let anything happen to you or Max. We're going to increase patrols, and I want you to have this. She handed Noah a small device that looked like a panic button. If Max ever acts like he did tonight, press this. It sends an immediate alert to every police car in the area. That night, Noah couldn't sleep. Every small sound made him jump, and he found himself checking and rechecking the locks on the windows and doors. Max seemed to sense his anxiety, staying close to Noah's bed, occasionally lifting his head to listen to the sounds of the night. Around midnight, Max suddenly stood up, his body tense. Noah sat up in bed, his heart pounding. What is it, Max? Max padded to the window, his ears pricked forward, but instead of growling, his tail began to wag slowly. He whined softly, a sound of recognition rather than alarm. Noah joined him at the window and gasped. Standing in their backyard, near the old oak tree, was a figure in a police uniform. The man was tall and broad-shouldered, his face partially hidden in shadow. But there was something familiar about his stance, his posture. Mom, Noah called softly, there's someone in the backyard. Hannah came running, but when she looked out the window, there was no one there. Where? She asked, searching the darkness. He was right there, Noah insisted, pointing to the spot under the tree. A policeman. Max saw him too. Max whined again, pressing his nose against the glass as if trying to reach something that was no longer there. Hannah frowned, pulling out her phone. I'll call Detective Mercer. If there's an officer in our yard, she should know about it. But Detective Mercer confirmed that no officers were scheduled to patrol their backyard that night. The perimeter patrols are staying on the street, she explained. Are you sure you saw someone? Noah looked at Max, who was still staring out the window, his tail wagging gently. I'm sure, Noah said, and Max saw him too. But Max wasn't scared. He was happy. That morning, Noah woke to find Max sitting by the oak tree, his nose pressed to the ground at the exact spot where Noah had seen the figure. The dog was perfectly still, his expression almost reverent. What are you doing, boy? Noah asked, joining Max under the tree. Max looked up at Noah, then back at the ground. He pawed gently at the earth, not digging, just touching the surface with his large paws. Hannah watched from the kitchen window, a puzzled expression on her face. He's been there for over an hour, she told Detective Mercer when she called to check on them, just sitting in that exact spot. Has he found something? Detective Mercer asked. You know how good he is at detecting hidden objects. I don't think so, Hannah replied. He's not digging or alerting, he's just sitting there, like he's keeping vigil. That afternoon, Elizabeth Grant came to visit. Noah told her about the strange incident the night before, about seeing the policeman in their yard and Max's unusual behavior. Elizabeth listened intently, her expression growing thoughtful. Can you show me where you saw him? She asked. Noah led her to the oak tree, where Max was still maintaining his quiet watch. Elizabeth knelt beside the dog, placing her hand gently on his head. This is where you saw the officer? She asked Noah. Noah nodded. Right here. Max saw him too, but he wasn't scared. He was happy, like he recognized him. Elizabeth was quiet for a long moment, her eyes studying the ground where Max continued to focus his attention. Noah, she said finally, What did the officer look like? Noah closed his eyes, trying to remember. He was tall, and he had broad shoulders. His face was in shadow, but Noah opened his eyes, looking at Elizabeth with sudden understanding. He looked like Detective Grant, in the pictures you showed us. Elizabeth's breath caught. Tom always said he would watch over Max, no matter what happened to him. I never believed in ghosts, but... She looked at Max, who was gazing up at her with knowing eyes. Animals see things we don't, feel things we can't. Do you think Detective Grant was here? Noah asked, his voice filled with wonder rather than fear. I think, Elizabeth said carefully, that love doesn't end when someone dies. And the bond between Tom and Max was special. Maybe Max needed to know that Tom was still with him, especially after everything that's happened. That evening, as they sat on the back porch watching the sunset, Noah noticed that Max seemed more relaxed than he had in days. The dog lay stretched out in the grass, his head pillowed on his paws, completely at peace. He's not worried anymore, Noah observed. About those men, about the danger. It's like he knows he's protected. Hannah smiled, stroking Max's back. Maybe he does know, maybe we all are. As summer turned to autumn, the threats against them seemed to fade. The men in the black sedan never returned, and Detective Mercer reported that several more arrests had been made in the corruption case, effectively dismantling the criminal network. I think you can breathe easier now, she told them during one of her visits. The people who might have wanted to hurt you are either in prison or too busy running from the law to bother with revenge. Noah was now 7 years old, and Max had been part of their family for over a year. The German Shepherd had become something of a local celebrity, recognized wherever they went as the dog who had helped solve a major police corruption case. But to Noah, he was simply Max, his best friend, his protector, his constant companion. On a crisp October morning, as they walked through the park near their house, they encountered a group of children from Noah's school. The kids gathered around Max, their faces filled with awe and excitement. "Is this really the police dog from TV?" one girl asked breathlessly. Noah nodded proudly. "This is Max. He used to work with a police detective named Tom Grant. They were partners." "Can he do tricks?" another child asked. Noah looked at Max, who was sitting patiently while the children petted him. "He can do more than tricks," Noah said. "He can find things that are lost. He can tell when someone is lying. And he protected me from bad men who wanted to hurt him." The children listened with rapt attention as Noah told them Max's story, how he had found the dog watching cartoons through a window, how he had rescued him from the abandoned house, and how Max had ultimately helped solve the mystery of Detective Grant's murder. "But the most important thing," Noah concluded, "is that Max taught me that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is care about someone who needs help, even when it's scary." As they walked home, Noah felt a deep sense of satisfaction. Max had found his purpose again, not just as a working dog, but as an inspiration to others. And Noah had found his purpose too, as Max's advocate and friend. That evening, as they settled in for their nightly routine of watching cartoons together, Noah reflected on how much their lives had changed. The small apartment felt warmer now, filled with the presence of a dog who had survived trauma and found love again. Hannah seemed happier too, more confident, and as if Max's strength had become part of their family's strength. "Do you remember when I first saw you?" Noah asked Max, who was curled up beside him on the couch. "You were so sad, just sitting there watching TV all alone. I wondered what you were thinking about." Max lifted his head, looking at Noah with those intelligent brown eyes that seemed to hold entire stories. "I think you were thinking about Detective Grant," Noah continued, "missing him, but also hoping that someday someone would care enough to help you." Max licked Noah's hand gently, his way of saying thank you. "Well, I'm glad I noticed you," Noah said, scratching behind Max's ears, "because you're the best friend I've ever had." On the TV screen, animated characters continued their adventures, but Noah was no longer watching. He was thinking about the future, about all the mysteries he and Max might solve together, all the people they might help, all the adventures that lay ahead. Detective Mercer had mentioned that the department was developing a new program, training civilian volunteers to work with retired police dogs on cold cases. Noah was still too young to participate officially, but she had hinted that in a few years, when he was older, there might be a place for him and Max in the program. "We could be real partners then," Noah told Max, "like you and Detective Grant were." Max's tail thumped against the couch cushions, And Noah could have sworn he saw approval in the dog's eyes. Later that night, as Noah prepared for bed, he took one last look out his bedroom window at the abandoned house across the street. It had been boarded up again after the police investigation, and would likely remain empty until someone bought it and renovated it. But Noah would never forget what that house had taught him, that behind every window there might be someone watching, someone waiting, someone who needed help. And sometimes, the smallest act of kindness, like noticing a lonely dog watching cartoons, could change everything. "Good night, Max," Noah whispered as he climbed into bed. The German Shepherd was already settled on his dog bed beside Noah's bed, but close enough that Noah could reach down and touch his fur. "Good night, Noah," Max seemed to say with a contented sigh. As sleep began to claim him, Noah smiled. Tomorrow would bring new adventures, new challenges, new opportunities to help others. But tonight, all was well. A boy and his dog were safe, warm, and loved. And in the end, that was the most important thing of all. The story that had begun with a glimpse through a window, a moment of compassion between a child and an abandoned dog, had become something larger than either of them could have imagined. It had brought justice to a murdered detective, hope to a traumatized animal, and purpose to a lonely boy. And it all started because Noah had looked up from his own window one rainy day and seen something that others had missed: a dog watching cartoons, waiting for someone to care. In the darkness of his room, Noah reached down to touch Max's head one more time. The dog's breathing was deep and peaceful, no longer troubled by nightmares of his past. He had found his way home at last, not to a place, but to a person who would never stop loving him. "We saved each other," Noah whispered into the darkness, and fell asleep with a smile on his face. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment where you're watching from. Stories like Noah and Max's remind us that heroes come in all sizes, and sometimes the biggest adventures begin with the smallest acts of kindness.